What's up, people who enjoy Sapphire Steel? I try not to do like a videos on the cards like as they're one by one released because it's always like, oh, they'll release a card and everyone goes, "That's really great," and then or that card's really bad, and then you see another card, and it just makes sense to where for the whole set to be released as one before you start theory crafting and saying what's good and what's bad. But there were some really big ones that basically just mean they're giving a lot of love to Sapphire Steel. Of course, when I say this, don't think I don't know that Red Blue or Ruby Sapphire also gets the same deal whenever these cards are released. Of course they do. But I think some of these cards are a lot more viable just in Sapphire Steel. I think they just work a bit better. So, of course, I'm talking about the Sapphire Steel love, but the Ruby Sapphire also get to benefit from it as well. So I just wanted to go through these because I think they're really cool, and I think if this is the direction of the cards we're getting released in Set 7 for Sapphire, and some of the Steel ones as well are pretty good as well. I think we're in a really good spot. And I like that we're at this point now where it's very clear that they're giving the colors and the deck combinations identities. Like they know Sapphire is the ramp item deck. Like they built the game. They know they understand that completely. But also you've got a card like this, like Lady Cluck, which I feel is a bit more inclined to the ramp version the curve version that I've been playing, the Kiwi one, yeah, the one with Doc in it, because it's protecting the board and allowing you to just basically get questing without being threatened by challenging. Bodyguard and Ward is basically two things we try to utilize quite heavily in that deck. So putting them both on one card and combining it is a ink color combo for that color combo for Sapphire and Steel really makes me sure that like they know the idea of the deck and they know the direction of the color combo really. So I think that's really cool. But going back to these two cards, of course, they're the two ones that really like sparked my interest. The other ones that I've got to show, like they're very cool, but they didn't really like excite me enough to make an entire video on them. So I'm gonna start with these ones. Of course, Scrooge McDuck. That's quite an expensive thing to have. You must exert 4 items of yours to play this character for free, which is pretty cool to get a character out for free. And when you play this character, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal an item card and put it into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your deck. Now, that one is not as exciting as the Tamatoa, and I know I'm really waiting to talk about the Tamatoa, but I think it does utilize some cards. Like in the last set, people were really big on Oswald being a very important card, and a lot of people liked Oswald. And the issue was there wasn't really much. There was item utility and there was good items, but there wasn't enough of it. And a reason why I think Sapphire Steel works better in the item decks is because we have the Fortisphere, and we have 8 Porpsicles, 8 cards that basically just whenever you play them for one, you cycle a card as well. So you draw a card. So they don't thin your deck out. Whereas Red Blue, what they'll have to do is they'll have the Porpsicles, but then they'll play like Vitalispheres and Ice Blocks and like other stuff that doesn't really cycle them. So their hand is shrinking, and they have to get a card like Scrooge out to get a payoff from it. Whereas we're just never really behind from playing these items down. And then you get a nice body, so it could be really challenging a lot of the low to the ground decks. But I think you want to play this out before turn 4, otherwise you're just hard playing it on 4. Um, it's unlikely that you're going to get 4 items out, and the fact that if you've just spent your few turns spamming items, you haven't really done much. And like a Daisy deck, an Amber Steel Daisy deck can just run over you of questing law, and then you play this out and then they sink strength on it. So I don't think that card's that amazing. I think it's really cool though that you've got some more utility cards for the item-based decks. But there's Tamatoa. When you play this character, return up to 2 item cards from your discard to your hand. Whenever this character quests, you may play an item for free. I mean, that's just amazing. You're not hitting like a control-based card. It doesn't remove anything. It doesn't fight for the board, but you're hitting like a win con type card on turn 6, and it's inkable, and it quests for 2, and it's a 4/5. So overall, I just think that's really awesome. And returning to like the thing with Hiram is the thing that I don't know why I'm getting so excited on this, but the thing with the item package right now is you play the items out and you hire them and you put them in the discard. And the only card that really is very good at utilizing them being a ton of items in the discard is Tamatoa because it can retrieve them. There is a Nick Wild card, I was going to say Nick Fury. There is a Nick Wild card that also retrieves them as well, but it's just not been that impactful and we've kind of pushed that one to the side. So now that we have another card that is going to say, I'm going to utilize there being items in the discard, which is kind of what we want because a lot of the item based cards, what they do is they destroy the item for you to do something, and then you've just basically got a bunch of Porpsicles and Fortispheres in the discard, which of course then you get to the Tamatoa and you can cycle them. But if we can start interacting with that discarded items a lot earlier, that's really good. You can start pushing for game, you can start pushing for more card draw, more board presence, more power. I think pair this with us getting any good steel removal cards, maybe some songs and stuff like that. That's just really awesome. So this is just a good card to push the color combo forward. Like I say on six, you've got cards like Arrow you can play, and in red blue they'll play like a Maui Shark. That's why I kind of think for us this is a bit more impactful. We'd really want to be playing this, but they probably want to play a Maui Shark anyway, and they can probably ignore it. Whereas we can get two items back, even if we wheeled or something like that. If we play this in a wheel version, like I said, the majority of the time it's going to be Hiram discarding them, and we've got a bunch of other cards as well now that when you play it, discard a item, and then you get to do something. So that card, just in general, just being able to interact with that discard pile of items earlier and getting more value out of it, it's gonna be really cool. And I think it might even bring in some more useful cards that are like Medal of Honor and stuff like that. Like we've got loads of items that we kind of just looked over because we couldn't utilize them very well. So I think a lot of these cards were like, hold on, item-based deck's gonna be great again, or they're going to be playable. So you've got Oswald's going to be great. That could be maybe a great turn too. So yeah, I just think there's loads of cool stuff coming, and it's just nice to see that they've gone in on the color combo. They've given us a bunch of cards that are actually quite playable and quite usable, and these are legendaries for the set, so I'm pretty happy for that. One out of the two being very, very impactful, and the other one being let's try this card out week one. The Scrooge being that card and Tamater being very impactful. I think it's cool. And as well, everyone knows of Sapphire Steel, when you deck build with Sapphire Steel, it's like we get a good card and then it's uninkable. And then we start with like 12 uninkables because we have like Whole New World, Grab Your Swords, dimes and stuff like that. So we really have like a ton of uninkable cards. So it's great that we've got more inkable cards that we can test out, and they don't and they just feel good in the deck, I think. I was going to say they don't feel broken. I don't know. I don't want to say that and then a card end up being actually broken. So yeah, it's just good. We've got more cards to work on those item-based decks. I think as well, it's really showing you that Sapphire Steel is going to have quite an overhaul in this set, because the standard like wheels and the non-wheel ones that we've seen like developed, like wheels being the play since set 2 or set 1, since whenever Sapphire Steel kind of got its identity, and the no wheel ones that Sky and Moyen have like popularized recently. I think we can kind of have a completely different look at it now and go, hold on, we've got a bunch of really good cards. They don't utilize particularly that well in the standard wheel or non-wheel, so let's kind of try and rebuild Sapphire Steel in a different way and utilize all these amazing cards. So I think that's really awesome. And like I said, just looking at the Lady Cluck card, I think that's really cool for the curve aggro-y build that I've been working on. I'm pretty sure we'll get a bunch of other cards as well that will just buff that. So it'd be really nice for Sapphire Steel to have two decks going into the set as well. We'd have the standard sort of dock build, or we're going to call it Kiwi Birds. I'm just going to keep calling it. If you don't know what Kiwi Birds is, go on Ink Decks. It's the it's the blue steel that I've got docking. I think that deck can still survive in set 7. I think it has a lot more. If it's got cards like this being added, and cards tend to be very similar to each other for colors like combo. So it seems that we'll probably get cards like this, with the Bodyguard and Ward and a big body on 5. If we're going to get more cards like this for the color combo, that means that deck can just survive more because we're getting more options, more ways to upgrade it and be better. And then, of course, like I say, you've got Tamatoa, that's that classic ramp item-based Sapphire Steel. So awesome, great two cards. And going to here, there's a bunch of cards that we kind of can ignore because they're not Sapphire Steel. Marie as well, we don't really need to look at that one. He's a tramp. I think that's Lady the Tramp. Bolt, that's Amber Steel. Yeah, they got another busted card because they needed that. As the Jafar, we really look at there because we've got now an ability that we can make our 1-drops powerful or make our 2-drops even more powerful. So we can make a Calhoun attack for 5, which would be awesome, and a quest for 2, which is just enough. The body is not the best of being at 2 health, but that's fine. I think you just take that negative for the fact that the card has an on-play ability that's very good, and it's inkable and everything like that. But yeah, we have a 2 quest that we can play on 3 now, which is just awesome because I'm really enjoying the John Silvers and the Petes in the deck. But the fact that unless I'm playing an Alice on turn 3 with the Kiwi build, I'm not playing a 2 quest there. And sometimes versus like Ruby Sapphire, you just basically want to be playing 2 questers and playing wide and gaining a bunch of lore that way. So even cards like that, they're just going to keep bringing the decks forward. That, in my opinion, is a very good steel, control removal. Just an all-round good steel card that's definitely going to hit people's lists to begin with. I know it's built for the illusion-based deck, but I just think that's really cool. So yeah, It's just I didn't want to comment too quickly on like the cards until the whole entire set's out. I will definitely do a video on the whole set when it's released. We have a card reveal on the 13th, so get ready for Twitter or wherever I'm going to post that. But yeah, it's just very interesting to see the direction we're going in, and it looks like it's very good. I believe this was the first set as well that came with player feedback. I believe all the other sets were built before, players got to react and say their opinions on the deck, but opinions on the cards. But this time round, they've actually really heard what the community says, and I think it's really good because it means they understand the identity of the color combos and what people would like from these decks. And they're just going to keep going from there. So really cool cards. It's really nice to see Sapphire Steel is going in a good direction for set 7, and I'm quite hopeful for it.